Okay, so welcome everybody. So if you haven't yet, just gather your props, bolsters, blankets, towels. Um, if you are on the cooler side today and you want a hot water bottle, it can be really comforting. You could also use a bag of rice. If you happen to have a yoga sandbag, that's really great. The eye pillows are really nice, especially if you have those ones with lavender in them. They're a little bit cooling too. But you can also use a scarf or like a t-shirt just to cover your eyes if you want to from time to time. So grab whatever works for you. And then we're just gonna start in a comfortable shape to get centered. So that could be seated. It could be, I'm gonna offer constructive rest pose. It could be your favorite restorative pose. We're just gonna be here for a little while so that we can just kind of get centered and get into the shape. So just some options for constructive rest pose, which is just laying on the back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. It is really nice to have a blanket or a towel behind the head. And then you could roll it up a little bit. And I like the roll kind of facing down. And it just creates a little bit of a curve for the back of your neck, which can be quite soothing. So let's see, what else have I got? I have a sandbag and I have an eye pillow. And again, you don't need any of these things specifically, but here I've got this little support underneath my head, and I like to just kind of tuck it up a little bit and bring it around my head so that it feels like it's this little pillow for my skull. And what that does is it signals to the neck that it can relax. So feel free to try that. If you have an eye pillow, you can place it on your forehead and then just gently drag it down so it's covering your eyes. You may or may not like the feeling of the actual pressure on your eyes. And then the sandbag or bag of rice or hot water bottle if you're in a cooler place or time right now and you want to actually have some warmth, you could put that maybe on your pelvis, your chest, just anywhere that feels good. And that little bit of weight is just another way that we can tend to kind of calm the nervous system. Okay, so take your time. I'm pro fidgeting. Okay, so if you feel like you need to move your body a little bit and kind of experiment with different shapes to see what feels comfortable, go for it. I like to think about letting stillness come to meet me in its own time rather than trying to force it. But there are certain things that we can do to help encourage that as well. And one of them is tapping into the breath. So it might feel good to take, 3 or 4 big sighs, inhaling fully through the nose, and you could even make a sound out of your mouth as you exhale. Each of those exhales is just like a little signal to the body that we're settling down. Receiving some calm and some support. Seeing if you can kind of drop your shoulders. Release any tension you're holding around your belly or your pelvic floor. Imagining the space between your eyebrows softening and widening. The jaw just slackening. We'll just take a moment here just to feel this beginning of stillness, whatever your day may have been like so far, your week. Just allowing the dust to settle. Just beginning to notice the earth beneath you. Taking a moment to acknowledge the land that you're on. And what's happening with that land right now. So the season, the time of day, the temperature of the air, the quality of the light. How your body has been experiencing your environment, which includes the trees and the flowers and the dirt, and also the people, the community that you're around. It's acknowledging yourself as a part of the web of everything. And so this practice is called cooling restorative yin. Okay, so that cooling can mean literally cooling the body, but it also means cooling the nervous system. So in hotter seasons, sometimes we can get a little overheated, and that can contribute to an experience of irritation and overwhelm. We're especially susceptible to this around the full moon, which we had just a couple of days ago. So some of you might be feeling some of that, just kind of a lot going on internally. So the cooling practice is really there to help to soothe and calm the nervous system. And when we do practices that are physically cooling, there's usually an energetic cooling aspect, and vice versa. So especially if it is a little bit physically cooler where you are, it can be nice to have those blankets and hot water bottles, because sometimes the body does cool down quite a bit. And that might be exactly what you're needing today. So just listen to your body as we go through around that. So there is a breath practice that I'd like to offer, and this is an excellent one to have in your pocket, because you can do it anytime, anywhere, if you start to feel overheated, literally, or internally, if you start to feel kind of irritated and frustrated. You don't need to open your eyes for this. Just stay relaxed as you are. I'll just explain. So this breath is called Shitali, and it's very simple. So if you can roll your tongue, you do that. Okay, if you don't roll your tongue, you just make a pursing, like a small O with your lips. Okay, and on the inhale, you sip in the air as if you're sucking it through a straw. And then you close your mouth and you exhale through your nose. So you sip in air, drawing the air along your tongue, whether rolled or just pursed lips. Then you close your mouth around your cooled down tongue and you exhale through the nose. Okay, so just trying a few of those if you'd like. Just noticing that sensation of drawing the air in and then feeling that cooled down mouth as you exhale. And as you take a few of those, as many as you'd like, maybe just observing if this changes anything for you in terms of your mood or how you're feeling in your body. And you may or may not notice anything, just kind of being open to observing. And again, just taking as many of those as you'd like. When that breath practice feels complete for you, just taking a few natural breaths and just noticing any differences, anything that you're noticing here. Okay, so I'm going to invite a little bit of movement. This is all optional. If you're feeling like it's really nice to just be still, please feel free to stay. Okay, otherwise, we can do some windshield wipers. So you've got the feet on the floor, knees are bent. You can do this seated or laying down. And the feet are about max distance apart, and we're just washing the knees from side to side. I've got my arms open in kind of a big T shape. And you could also turn your head away from your knees, just bringing the twist gently up into the neck, if that feels right. And you could do it, with your breath, or you could do it quite a bit slower than that, maybe pausing on each side. Just kind of enjoying this nice, slow, luxurious movement. And then you could bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit from side to side. The knees could be really close there. You could have them nice and wide, like as wide as your shoulders. And then extend the legs up to the sky or out in front of you if you're seated, and just taking some circles for the wrists and ankles. Okay, so we're going to start with a side bending pose called banana asana. That means we're going to remain laying on our back. So if you're not here already, please join us here, and I will give you an alternative if you're not laying on your back today. Okay, so banana asana, you actually don't really need any props for this. It's a nice simple one. So you can keep your bum where it is, or bring your bum a little to the right. And then extend your legs out and walk them to the left. So your bum is going to stay down. You're not rolling on your side. You're just walking your legs over to the left. And then you could optionally hook your right heel onto your left ankle. So it's going to be like a little bit of an outer hip stretch. You can reach your arms up over your head and just walk your upper body to the left as well, just keeping your right bum down. So again, you're not rolling onto your side. You could hold elbows, you could hold your right wrist, you could have your arms open, just see what feels good. Now, as to props, eye pillow or scarf over the eyes is nice. You could put a sandbag on your right hip, and you will notice that that will probably just intensify the stretch a little bit. If it bothers your lower back at all, skip that. And if your lower back is not quite happy here, you could actually just wedge something small underneath that right hip, and it should help. Okay, I am going to give an alternative. So if this isn't working for you, or just laying on your back, like if you're pregnant, you don't want to lay on your back for a long time, you can do this instead. So you can take a prop underneath your side waist and then something else underneath your head, and you're just going to lay over that. And it's just a side lying shape. There are different ways to do this. You could have something between your knees. You could straighten out your bottom leg. You could have your arm up over your head, which is going to feel a bit more like a side stretch. You could have your right leg long, which is a little bit more of a side stretch. So we're kind of just balancing between the yin and the restorative modes. And just generally in a yin mode, you're stretching a little bit. In a restorative pose, you're not so much stretching, it's just deeply relaxing the body. And in this practice today, we're going to be we're in a restorative mood. So we're mostly going to be doing more gentle stretches if we're stretching. Maybe a couple of exceptions in there. So none of this should be painful, okay? And discomfort, you can negotiate with a little bit. So a little discomfort around the stretch can be nice, but again, I'd like for you to stay in that place where you feel like you can kind of relax into the sensations. It's not something you're feeling like you have to brace against. So feel free to fidget and adjust, take an alternative. It's always okay to unmute yourself and ask me a question if something's not feeling clear. Okay. And then just breathing into what's happening for you, and keep in mind that you can come back to that Shitali, that cooling breath, anytime you're feeling like you want to just cool a little bit more. Whether you're doing that breath or not, you might want to experiment with just a deeper breath or a softer breath. It can also be a really lovely practice to just observe your natural breath, so not getting in its way, just letting it do its thing. And just noticing what that feels like for you without judging it or needing to change anything about it. So just checking in here. And again, listening to your body around, maybe you're feeling like you need a little bit more time here. And of course, you can always come out early if anything is feeling unsustainable or becoming stressful. And if you're feeling like you're ready to shift out of this shape, you can just gently unhook your feet, bring them back into the midline, bring your spine back into the midline. And I usually like to hug the knees in and just rock side to side a little bit there. You could take a happy baby as well with the soles of the feet up to the sky, and just take a little rock like that. Yeah. And then let's come to the second side when you're ready. So depending on how much space you have, you might be shifting your hips a little to the left, extending the legs and walking them to the right, keeping that left thumb down. You may or may not hook the left heel over the right ankle, and you can walk the upper body over to the right as well, and just kind of see what feels good for your shoulders in terms of your arms. Holding opposite elbows, holding the left wrist, or maybe arms are a bit more open or in a cactus shape. I find for me, I have a bit of scoliosis, so the two sides of my body are just a little different. This is one of those ones that the two sides feel really different to me. So if you're getting that little pinch in your lower back, try wedging something underneath your left bum, and it would be something quite low. And if it's better for you to be laying on your side, just taking a soft prop under your waist so that your arm is free, resting your head on something and taking this as a side lying pose, just experimenting with what feels right for your legs here together, prop between them, bottom leg could be long, top leg could be long. See what feels right. And once you get to a shape that feels okay for you, maybe taking a deep breath Just noticing how it feels to open this left side of your body. The left side is associated with those more cooling qualities that we were talking about earlier. So when we focus on the left side, it's sort of the yin side of the body. So that means energetically just the darker, cooler aspect of everything. Okay. When you think about just the principle of yin and yang, that everything has, might be a little more so on the yin or the yang side, but that in the end, everything has a little bit of both. So it's really always about balance. And again, in these times when we're a little bit more heated, whether literally because it's, deep summer or heat wave or something like that, or again, there might be a period of anger or irritation, and menstruation is also a time when sometimes our heat is a little bit high because our body is really busy detoxifying and just doing lots of different things. So it can be really supportive to just do these cooling practices during those times, just to balance that energy. So again, just observing for you, what does this feel like here? Would you like to try that cooling Shitali breath? Maybe deeper breaths, or maybe just watching your breath quietly, receiving the experience of stillness. Again, just noticing how you're feeling here. If you're feeling like you might need a little bit more time, there's just no rush, even if the two sides of the body feel like they need a different amount of time. Um, I find it can be nice to just sort of honor that sometimes. within reason. And if you are feeling ready to come out, we can just very gently unhook the legs and come back to your center. Again, you might like to hug your knees into your chest and rock side to side, or take that happy baby. Beautiful. Yeah, and then you could roll over to one side, and I'll just invite a little bit of cat and cow. So you could do that on your hands and your knees or your seat. And if you'd rather be still and just remain laying on your side, that's also just fine. And it's essentially the same movement if you're on hands and knees or in a seat. It's just a bit of movement along the spine. So inhaling into a little back bend shape and exhaling to round. So this will continue to just work through any imbalances along the spine. And the practice of connecting the movement and the breath together is generally cooling for the nervous system, calming for the nervous system. So I find it really depends on the person, but a lot of the time we get this message that if we're stressed, what we should do is rest, aka be still. But I find that for me, sometimes when I'm stressed or anxious, what I need to do is move first. And something like cat and cow is really helpful for me for that, just connecting the movement and the breath together. It just sort of helps to calm things down a little bit. And then I find stillness is more accessible for me. So that's just me. Some people are a lot better at being still. And it's not better or worse. It's just sort of wherever you are. Okay. So I'll just start talking about the next shape, and you can just kind of make your way into it as you're ready. So this is a restorative twist that can have a little bit of a stretch in it that I find can be quite nice. And it's a relatively safe twist for pregnancy and stuff like that. It's quite mild. So I'd love for you to have a bolster if you've got one. And I find 2 bed pillows actually makes a pretty excellent restorative bolster, just stacking them right on top of each other. So if you have 2 bed pillows, that tends to work really well here too. Depending on how puffy they are, maybe one will work. So I'm sitting on my left hip. My knees are pointing towards the long edge of my mat, and my bolster is parallel with my mat. Okay, so it's like a little right angle sort of situation here. And then I'm going to try sliding my top knee down to meet my left inner arch. So this is a shape that's called deer position. You may or may not keep this. You can see how it feels. Some of you may also want to have the knees together with something between them. Okay, and then you can gently twist towards the bolster and then fold down. Okay, so I've got my back hand, my left hand just resting down beside my hip, and I'm just not going to put my ear all the way down because my mic is there and you'll hear a muffling sound. And then I've got my right hand just kind of in a cactus shape like this. Now, some people I find the hip is just a little scrunched like this. So you could prop up the top edge of your bolster with like a block or an extra cushion or something like that. And for some people, that angle is just much more comfortable. And you can experiment with really turning your belly down or being a little bit more laying on your side. And just if you're like, you know what, I love this one, but I've had days where I'm just like, my hip is not gonna let me do this. Like, it just doesn't feel good. You could do the same shape, but laying on your back. So it's just a nice wide open twist. And you may or may not want something underneath the, the knee or something in between the knees or behind the back, as you like it. The general principle with the props in restorative yoga is that we're bringing the ground up to meet the body. So anytime there's a gap between yourself and the body, filling it with a soft prop tends to help the nervous system to feel like, oh, I'm held, I'm supported, I don't need to sort of struggle to hold myself up. Okay, as to props, a scarf or an eye bag you could just kind of place over your eyes or your forehead or even just your temple, depending on the prop you have. And there are a couple things that you could do with your sandbag, bag of rice, hot water bottle, weighted blanket, whatever, if you've got a little weight with you. You could try putting it on your hip. You could try putting it on your bottom inner thigh. So again, it's not so much where you place it, it's just this feeling of weight on the body tends to help the nervous system to feel, again, that, it's okay to rest, it's okay to slow down, it's okay to feel. And as for where the gaze is, generally I like to have my eyes in the same direction as my knees. Some people like to turn the head away. I find my neck is just usually not gonna want to do that. And if your neck is not so sure here, yeah, a little prop underneath the head can be nice depending on how that's feeling. Angling the bolster can help. And if it's just not working to be here, you could come to that laying on the back twist where your neck can be neutral and you can place that towel or blanket behind the back of the neck. Yeah. So again, just taking a nice deep breath here. So as always, everybody is different, but for many people, passive twists are calming for the nervous system. So they help us to just feel a little bit more like, oh, I can slow down. Bit of a funny story. I had an old student who sometimes had stress barfing. So sort of when things are really stressful, it was like this incredible nausea that would come up. And this was the pose that really helped her to get out of that cycle, just to let her body calm and feel safe enough that the nausea would calm down. Okay. So this is a good SOS pose if you're feeling like you really need to just calm yourself down, if it feels that way for you. Okay. I also really like this pose for menstruation. It's just a really nice, gentle stretch for the hips and the lower back. You can kind of relax the belly, breathe into the lower back. And obviously that's nice if you're just having like a tight lower back or some stuff going on in the pelvis. So this is a lovely one if it's working for you. And again, all we need to do here is just breathe and receive. So again, just taking a moment here to notice what's happening for you. If you're wanting to stay, feel free to stay. And if you're feeling ready to come out of the shape, if you're laying on your back, you could come back to the windshield wipers. If you're laying forward on the bolster, you can place your hands and just very gently roll yourself up to a seat. And then what I like to do is turn away from the bolster, take a couple of windshield wipers and seated, or laying back over the bolster if you want. Yeah, and then you just turn your knees to the other side and then spin around so that you're sitting on your opposite hip. So this is my right hip here. And the bolster is right up against the hip in line with the mat, and the knees are pointing off to the long edge of the mat. And then you can try that deer shape. Again, the two sides might be different and you want to go with comfort over symmetry, okay? And then we're gently turning towards the bolster, rolling down. And again, you can have that backhand by your hip. That's where I usually like it. You can do cactus arms if it's more comfortable. Just check in for yourself. Again, you might angle the top edge of the bolster, placing something under there. You might need a prop under your head, like a blanket or a low cushion or something. And again, if it's not working for you to be laying forward, you can absolutely lay on your back instead, taking the windshield wiper twist, maybe with a prop underneath the knee if it's floating, or knees together if you like just a simpler twist. And I should say, this goes for the whole practice, but if you're ever feeling like something's not working for you, you can always move into your favorite restorative pose or shavasana or whatever it is, just wherever you do feel safe and comfortable. And again, fidgeting is a-okay. Fidgeting is often the body's way of sort of trying to get itself comfortable. And of course, sometimes with fidgeting, I need to negotiate with my body a little bit and just say, okay, I'm going to try to be still now for just, maybe 5 breaths and see if my body will catch up. And I think most of you guys are already doing this, but again, you can adjust with your extra props, something over your eyes, maybe you've got a weight on your hip or your bottom thigh. Maybe you're wanting that blanket over you if you're starting to feel that your physical body is cooling down. Maybe it feels a little cooler and that's delightful. Maybe you're still quite warm. All of those things are okay. And if you are still feeling quite warm and that's uncomfortable for you, remember you can come back to that Shitali, that's sipping in cool air, closing the mouth and exhaling through the nose. This is a nice one to just really allow the breath to move down into the lower back, into the lower belly. So many of us don't even realize how much tension we're holding in the belly. It can be really nice to focus a little bit on letting that go.
And again, just noticing if this feels complete for you. If it feels like you need a bit more time here. And if you're feeling like you might be ready to come out, you can take a deep breath and just gently, lazily make your way out. So again, if you're coming up from below, you can place your hands down and just gently roll yourself up. If you're laying on your back, you can do the windshield wipers. And then, yeah, the windshield wipers tend to be quite nice after that, so feel free to add. And then if you're feeling like you want to do a seated cat and cow or some other sort of stretch, feel free to just add any counter pose that your body is asking for. The body is generally quite intelligent around knowing what it needs. And again, I'll just start talking about where we're going next. So what I'd like to do is come into a restorative pose through a yin pose. So the yin pose is quite yin, which means it's quite a stretch. It's not as passive. We'll hold it for like a couple of minutes and then we can all kind of settle back into the restorative pose from there. And some of you may want to just go right into the restorative pose. So we're going to set everything up and then you can choose whether you're going to come with me or just lay back into your restorative pose. So this one is called the beach chair. A lot of you know it. So what we would do is probably sit on a prop, especially if you're going to do the yin part with me. You can always remove that later. And then you're going to have your support behind you. So I did grab 2 bed pillows because I'm a proponent of bed pillows. If you don't have bolsters, they're actually so nice. But I just wanted to show that it kind of depends on what's going on with them. So you would just kind of lay back. And if that feels nice, that's perfect. But you can also adjust, you know, by pushing the top one a little bit away. You could have the top one sort of on the ground like that. So the other one is supporting at the top. And that can just feel so nice to lay back on it. It's nice and soft, so it's already supportive for the neck. Now, if you're working with bolsters, I'm a big fan of these flatter bolsters. I know some of you have the round ones. So the bolster would go behind you. If you've got the flatter one, it can be right up against your pelvis. I find with those circular ones, I just need to push them away a little bit. And I do recommend a little bit of elevation. You don't necessarily need it, but it tends to be a bit nicer for the lower back if we do elevate the top edge. You could use bolsters, you could use pillows, just sort of whatever you've got there. And then if you are working with that sensitive neck, you could take your blanket and just set it up so it's ready to support your neck when you come down, and just have all your other stuff kind of handy. Okay, so if you're ready for the restorative, you don't want to take this little yin part, you can just lay right back and find a comfortable place for your legs. So soles of the feet together, knees open wide, maybe something underneath the legs. Maybe your legs are long, maybe you have an extra prop that you could put underneath the knees, kind of like this. Lay back, eye pillow, sandbag where you want it, relax, okay? We'll meet you there. If you're coming with me into this yin shape, you're going to take the soles of your feet together and your knees open wide, and I'm just kind of snuggling up to the edge of the bolster so my sit bones are just tipping off. And I might need some extra support underneath my thighs, and that's just 2 similar props. It doesn't necessarily have to be blocks. It could be pillows like this. Start by sitting up nice and tall, and then just relax your chin forward.
Take a breath into the back of the neck, and then experiment with a very gentle, slow rock from side to side. So very gentle neck stretch. And just go at the pace that feels right for you. So you might be going really slow, you might be going a little faster, but just gentle. And with the intention that you're not pulling anything, you're just kind of using gravity to allow these muscles to stretch very gently. Just exploring how far you want to go. So as you move your head to one side, different muscles are going to get a little bit of a stretch. So, you know, as you bring your ear over the shoulder and maybe even lean back a little bit, you're just going to feel different muscles getting a release. Let's get my hair out of the microphone here. And just shoulders nice and soft. And we're just focusing on the neck here, but I don't need the rest of the body to be kind of rigid. And just taking that as long as you'd like. So just when that feels complete, you can bring your chin back down through center again. Softly lift it, and then we'll fold forward any amount. So in a yin or restorative mode, so that means we're not pulling, we're not forcing, we're just using a bit of gravity and going really slowly and gently. You can fold over. If you want to grab your bolster, a couple of blocks, and just to support your upper body as you come down, that's great. I'll kind of mess up my structure here, but one example of that is just having the firm bolster under your forehead, so you're not having to go too far. Personally, though, I kind of like right here, allowing my head to drop forward because we can continue to release the back of the neck that way. Okay, so just go to where it feels right for you. And I'm just really gently using my hands to support me. With minimal effort. Some people really like this one for menstruation as well. That's a factor. And you may want to explore a little bit of a rocking from side to side with your head here. Just continuing to release the back of the neck, the upper back. Yin slow, so like moving through something even denser than water. Soft, no force. So we'll take another couple of breaths here if you are enjoying this. And then if you feel ready, so just again, listening to your body around that, you're gonna slowly roll up and lay back over your props. So I usually don't like this prop under my bum. Some people really do, not for me. So I'm just gonna remove it, lay back, adjust that prop underneath the back of the neck. So you can see how your legs feel. Depending on how big of a stretch that was for you, you might wanna just take a couple of windshield wipers to release it through your legs. And then you may or may not want to return to the butterfly shape, which feels quite different from this angle, okay? Or you can just extend the legs if that's what's feeling good. And then again, eye pillow, sandbag, as you need to be comfortable. And sink into the support behind you. Allow your shoulders to kind of slide towards the earth. And sort of in a different direction or from a different perspective, this is also really lovely for lower back tension or lower back imbalances. And some people find that this is a really nice pose for menstrual cramps, nice for digestion. And as we practice our restorative yoga, sometimes we kind of learn which poses are triggers for us in a positive way in terms of what allows us to relax. I know some people who get into this pose and it's just like sleep immediately, which is quite sweet. So that's quite nice. There's nothing wrong with falling asleep. If you fall asleep, that's because that's what you need. So just lay back and enjoy. Staying with your breath. Continuing to allow your body to sink even deeper into this relaxation. Every exhale, an opportunity to let go. Just take a moment again just to notice how you're feeling. And we're going to be transitioning from here into Shavasana, and that can mean a lot of different things. So in restorative practice, almost all the poses could essentially be Shavasana. It's all variations on Shavasana. This particular shape I love as a Shavasana for pregnancy, for example. So if you're feeling quite comfortable here, you want to stay, that's perfect. You don't have to move at all, okay? Otherwise, we can talk about some different options for Shavasana. And if you know that you'd like to move, maybe you're taking a little windshield wiper again. Maybe you're taking a nice stretch with your arms up over your head and your legs out long. Depending on how high up you are on your props, you might find it easier to roll to one side or easier to sit up. Go ahead and do the easier thing. So classically, Shavasana is laying on the back, okay? You could also elevate your feet. A little trick, again, depending on your props, you could turn around. Put your legs up over the structure that you've just set up and lay on the ground so your legs are a bit elevated. You may or may not want to put a little prop like the low block underneath your bum for even a bit more elevation. This is kind of a nice way of doing legs up the wall when you don't have a wall. If you do have a wall, it's lovely. You can put your legs, swing your legs up, and you may or may not put a little prop underneath your bum. If you have a sandbag or a bag of rice and legs up the wall, my favorite place to put it is the soles of the feet. So you put it on the soles of your feet and then extend your legs up, and it's just such a lovely therapeutic feeling for the hips and the legs. So feel free to try that if you are a legs up the wall aficionado. Okay. Some people really like a prone Shavasana. You could lay forward on your belly with a bolster underneath your tummy and something underneath your forehead. That's often called the massage table, and I know for some of you that's your that's your jam, that's the one you like. Wherever you are, remember that you may have some other props like the eye pillow, the bag of rice or the sandbag. Maybe you want a blanket over you at this point. Just checking in with what would feel sweet for you to rest. And we've got some time here, so take your time to fidget in and relax and enjoy. And then when you find that spot, if you haven't already, just go ahead and take a deep breath. And again, just sinking into the cooling, calming experience of rest. take a moment again just to notice how you're feeling. Towards the end of our practice, how are you in relationship with your internal experience, with your mood, with your energy? And does it feel like there's maybe a little bit more balance? May or may not, just noticing. And as always, take your sweet time. Okay, and if you do feel ready to come out of your Shavasana, you can take a breath and just really slow, intuitive movements, as some of you are already doing, just seeing how your body wants to gently begin to move its way out of stillness. And eventually you're rolling over to one side, depending on the shape that you're in. And then just a lazy journey back up to a seat. So as we are practicing this live, it is the morning. And if you're watching the recording, maybe you're doing this before bed. So if you have some day left and you want to just rebalance your energy, you can do a couple of breaths with me. If you're about to go to sleep, you can skip this and just go to sleep, okay? But if you would like to just invite a little bit more energy, just in your seat as you are, you can inhale, just reaching your arms wide and up towards the sky. And as you exhale at your mouth, drawing the hands down along the midline. And just taking 3 of those, inhaling, just inviting some gentle, alert energy into your body. And as you exhale at your mouth, just releasing anything that might need releasing. Last one. Good. You can keep your hands at your heart or adjust them in whatever way feels right. Gently bowing your mind, your hands, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to allow yourself to have this practice of rest, slowing down today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our practice. Honoring and acknowledging the sacredness of the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing this practice with me.